Conservative MPs gathered today on Parliament Hill, and they met under some kind of unusual circumstances. While they plot strategies for next week's return to Parliament, Tories are also deliberating who can plot a path back to power beginning this June. So how did the meeting go? Eric Duncan is an Ontario Conservative MP who's new to caucus. He joins me now. Hi, Mr. Duncan.
Hello, thanks
nice
for
to meet
having
you
me.
And nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Before we get into caucus, you know the question that I'm going to ask, because you are the only openly gay Conservative MP, and there was somebody this week running for leadership of your party, Richard Descaries, who said some controversial things, including that being gay is a choice. I know you tweeted out denouncing that, obviously. How did hearing that how did that affect you, or how did you feel when you heard that?
I was a little surprised to hear it, frankly, and as we kick off this leadership race, I think it's an important opportunity for our party. Races matter, elections matter, leadership races certainly matter. So the fact, I think, that as we kind of get things kicked off, everybody coming back to Ottawa, that we're dealing with these issues that have been settled for, I think, a long period of time. And I think tens of millions, literally, of Canadians have evolved in this issue. It's a closed issue. Nobody's looking at rehashing this, but moving forward, and for our party and for our country and for our parliament. So I was surprised the statement was made. But having said that, I was equally surprised by my colleagues in caucus and across the country, elected members, volunteers, campaign managers, people who take lawn signs, that have just reached out to say, look, we're not going back down this road again. We're not interested in rehashing this. We need to be what I call fiscally conservative and socially relevant in our party, and that's going to be our path to victory. So I was pleasantly surprised at the pushback and say, we're not going there.
Why were you surprised at the pushback?
Well, I was say pleasantly surprised just by how I think, again, it shows how the country, and in my own story, I was a rural mayor just south of Ottawa here, and I came out publicly in 2017. Small town, rural community, small C conservative, a lot of churches and people of faith. And I was hoping for indifference when I came out and just thought, okay, I just want to get this out here, get the weight lifted off my shoulders and move ahead. And I got the opposite of indifference in nothing but a good way. The number of people that reached out to me of support and encouragement just shows how far our country has come. And so I just like now to see it. I'm proud of our party now, that when this type of benchmark or floor is set or a statement is said, it's just a no-go. And the response has been wonderful.
You're right, that the number of leadership candidates who specifically denounced those words, I mean, they all did. I'm wondering, though, if you feel like that is part of the reason that your party lost the election overall, because Mr. Scheer did not, during the campaign, articulate as clearly as these candidates have now how he stood, particularly on the issue of gay marriage.
So one of the things I think going forward, I've said to people, I'm not running into leadership. I'm not in a certain camp. I don't have somebody I'm angling for or trying to do. What I care about is the future of our party and what we need to do to get across the aisle. We need, frankly, 50 more members in the next election from different parts of the country to be able to form a majority government. And I look to the UK. I'm a political nerd, for those that don't know me.
You're in good company in this show.
Yeah, exactly.
There's many of us here, yeah.
Appreciate that. Nice to relate. But I follow Canada, US, and UK politics, and I was particularly impressed in the UK Conservatives' big victory there. They have 20 openly gay Conservative members of Parliament, and they've been there for decades. It's not an issue. It was Conservatives that brought forward the government legislation back, I think it was 2012, to allow and endorse marriage equality. And I think we go there, and I look at that, the number of younger members that are elected, next generation, the diversity from income backgrounds, race and ethnicity, and again, members of the LGBT community. I'm looking forward and saying, what do we need to do? And again, the word I keep using, which I think relates hopefully to a lot of people, a lot of members and prospective members in this leadership race, is being socially relevant. If we're not relevant with the times and people don't see that we're reflecting who they are and where the country's at, they don't care about how good and solid our economic message is, which it was in the last campaign. Affordability, the balancing the budget, and the deficit issue, we won that argument, but we didn't necessarily do as well on the social relevancy side. And looking forward, I think that's something we need to address.
What's the difference between relevance, being socially relevant, and socially progressive? Is there a difference?
I think the word I said.
I feel like you're choosing the word purposely.
Fair, and I will say this point as that I find certain words trigger progressive, red Tory, social conservative in these camps. And the one thing I've learned, and I agree with totally, is tokenism and titles. And there's no party that gets driven more crazy by these titles than the Conservative Party. So I'm cautious of that. But I just say times change, and to me, supporting marriage equality now is not progressive. It's moderate. It's just the way that it is. You're not a progressive person to say you support same-sex marriage, marriage equality today. I think where the country's at, where tens of millions of Canadians at, and frankly where I believe a good segment of our party, an overwhelming segment of our party are at, and especially those accessible voters.
Are you sure that it's an overwhelming? I'm asking only because
Yep.
I look at the numbers from 2017.
Yep.
I think there were 24,000 votes cast for Brad Trost, ended up coming in fourth place.
Yep.
I don't know what it is this year. Right?
And with all due respect, and getting into different leadership candidates and their perspectives, it was about 14% of the vote when you got to fourth place.
Yeah.
It was about 14% of the vote. So I mean, we can parse these things and say how they work, but again, I've seen and even an evolution, and I think respectfully, the last election and our journey over the course of the last few months has really had people reflect in a good way about what's the path forward, what do we need to be. We have to be a government in waiting at all times, and I appreciated Andrew's message this morning. We can't give the Liberals a free ride over this next 6 months, and we need to keep on that. And again, it gives leadership races give a chance to reflect, and again, I'm not in a lane. What I'm saying is I don't have the perfect formula right now at this time for us to win a majority, and I have some ideas of a majority in the next election, but I know what's not going to work. And that's going back and rehashing these debates and making just inappropriate statements that just divide people. And actually, I wouldn't even say they're divisive anymore. I think they're frankly universally condemned, and we've seen that.
Do you think that candidate should be blocked?
I openly struggle with this, and I've said this a couple of times today. Our party constitution makes it very clear. You cannot discriminate based on race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender. So I think there's some questions that prospective candidates are going to need to be asked about whether they apply that filter. The bar is set there. Part of me also, if a candidate has certain views that I may not agree with on marriage equality, I also want to see them part of me wants to see them enter the race and hopefully not be successful, where we can say, look, you had the chance and you did that. So I'm going to be a politician and sit on the fence on this. I mean, it's a lot to take in the last 48 hours, right? Yeah. But part of me says, well, wait a minute, we got to set a floor here. But also part of me wants to say, let's send that, those people a message that may have that view respectfully, in a civil tone.
I guess I think that the question is being asked because it wasn't just him saying, I'm opposed to marriage equality. Yep. He said a very specific comment that was, many have labeled bigoted. I mean, he said that he thinks it's a choice, right?
Well, agree. And going back some of the comments made in the last couple of days, not only was it questioning marriage equality, it was questioning whether being gay is a choice. I can confirm, I'll be the scientific fact that I'm born gay. I'm proud of who I am. I was born this way, and I can confirm to any conservative member or prospective member, people that are wondering, that's the situation. And I always joke, I got elected as a mayor in my community when I was at the age of 22. I got on council when I was 18. I became an MP in a small C conservative riding at the age of 31. If being gay was a choice, I probably wouldn't have chose this path to have the easiest way forward. But I will say, I've loved the experience I've had because it shows how far we've come. And I'm very optimistic and hopeful to current members and prospective members. Let's put this behind us. I agree. Somebody said to me, I'm tired of talking about it. Me too. Let's move on and let's talk about those issues that matter to Canadians. I care just as much about, Western Canada, getting Alberta and Saskatchewan Canadians back to work. I care about transit in the GTA and getting it built and stop this dither and delay that happens all the time. I care about it in the East Coast and my riding, Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry. Agriculture matters. The low water levels in the St. Lawrence River matter. Let's get to things that need to be solved, not rehash these debates that were settled 20 years ago.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.